What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Turn off this music. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Saturday Night Crypto, where we will talk about Bitcoin and the market, the crypto market in general, cryptocurrencies, talk about some specific coins. Sometimes we'll talk about indicators, and I will answer questions for you guys. If you have them, feel free to type them in the chat. So I figured we would start out by just kind of looking at the overall market cap of crypto. Like, let's see what's going on in general at a super high level here. Right, we had this is the total market cap of Bitcoin and all alts, right? If you just want to look at Bitcoin here, you can see just the alts here, and then you kind of add these together, and you get this chart here, right? But just kind of overall looking at crypto as an asset class, we had this big correction from, early in the year down to about the beginning of April, and then it's totally turned around, and a lot of money has poured back into the space in general, right? And now the total market cap is kind of back up over that $450 billion. So that's the market cap now. And if you look at the alts relative to Bitcoin, right? Like look at the alt market cap relative to Bitcoin, just see like kind of an equal, it basically like when the crypto market tanks, everything tanks, right? It's not like, oh, well, Bitcoin, we haven't seen an event where, the Bitcoin market share went down and all the market alts went up. That hasn't happened yet. The time we might see something like that is after Binance and some of the other exchanges start to add US dollar and fiat pairings. Because then it'll be really interesting because you'll have a scenario where people can buy alts directly with fiat currency, or US dollars or European pounds or whatever it is. And that's going to really change the landscape of crypto because right now, everything is measured in Bitcoin. And in fact, when I buy an altcoin, I am only thinking about, what was my Satoshi price in? What's my Satoshi price out? Did I accumulate more Bitcoin? Who cares what the dollar amount of the altcoin is? Because what I'm doing by buying and selling alts is I'm accumulating more Bitcoin at this point in time, right? That may change a year from now. A year from now, I might just be straight US dollar into Ripple or Tron or whatever it is, and straight out, right? Just straight US dollar gains in and out of cash, nice and safe, right to those altcoins. But we're at least a year away from that because with so many tokens possibly being securities and the regulation looming and all of this stuff, it's going to be a while before that happens, but it absolutely will happen. And then the question just becomes, man, like Bitcoin now really has to stand on its own in terms of a store of value at that point. And will it? I don't know. Like they'll have, I'm sure Lightning Network will be a thing at that point, and Ethereum will have sharding and proof of stake, and the top market cap coins will have had a chance to really spread their wings and do whatever they're going to do at that point. And I think we will also see several real world decentral applications at that time. So, kind of like the Amazons and the Facebooks of the crypto world, we'll start to see those coins come online. I think by the end of this year, we're going to see a couple of those. Like, hey, I use this real world application, this bike sharing platform, this pizza delivery service, this payment app, this, atomic swap application, whatever it is, this, hey, this identity data, B2B, whatever it is, there's going to be some real world applications that everybody is using by the end of this year. And those are going to be like the hot stocks of that came out of the .com bubble. And that'll be really interesting. And at the same time, there's going to be USD pairings and fiat pairings for a lot of the alts. It's going to be a really exciting year. There's so much institutional money that's still not in, though. Like if you look at the size of this market, this total market cap relative to something like, I don't know, just the stock market or Apple, even like a company like Apple, like take a look. Right, cryptocurrencies in the S&P. So here is 461 billion, right? 461 billion, right? And we're between fifth and sixth place as far as these market caps go, right? There's so much room to grow. It's gonna be really awesome. And if you just look, if we want to look recently at like how alts have been performing, we can take a look at this guy. I like to keep this is you guys can write this this address down. This is a nice little website that just shows like kind of a state of the union of all of the cryptocurrencies in the space, or at least most of the ones you care about. And just like, you know, in the December January time frame, it was like 100% red with like 2 green blocks, and you're just like, oh my god, it's a sea of red. There's blood in the streets. And then, you know, as we were in the beginning of April, this was like all green with a couple of reds, and it's basically like you can't make a bad decision. You're gonna make money. It's just a matter of how much do you make? Is it 2x? Is it 10x? Is it 2%? Right? So now we're getting a little bit closer to where this looks like it's about, like, just my eyeball is telling me this is under 50-50, like, because Bitcoin is starting to pull back. So let's take a look at Bitcoin and see what we've got going on here. So here's the Bitcoin 1-day chart, which you guys have probably seen 1,000 times. Nothing special here. So for those of you guys who saw my Ichimoku Cloud lesson last week, and if you missed this, you can find it as a VOD on my webpage. I can link it for you guys after this if you want. But I'm going to turn on the Ichimoku Cloud. Somebody who's in chat, tell me what you see here. Does anybody want to make a does anyone want to make a statement about what is kind of being shown here? You can ignore this. I'll just take that off. Right, like what do we see here? Well, we see prices under the cloud, which is bearish. Although we've entered the cloud, so we're kind of in the no trade zone, right? We're on the doubled settings, right? So this is going to be a more accurate picture of what's happening with price, but it's not necessarily going to be the quickest signal, right? So we're under the cloud, but we're coming back. What about the Tenkan and the Kijin? The Tenkan is the blue line and the Kijin is the red line. And as price is going down, you've got the Kijin on the wrong side of the Tenkan. You don't want it up here unless you're short, and then you do, and that's great, right? We came down here. There was a nice edge-to-edge back here. And we came down. We've been down here for a while. And the Kijin right here, we had a bullish cross right there, right? And then the price started to go up a little bit, which was nice. But then we had a recross negative. And when you have a bearish TK cross in bearish territory, which is under the cloud, that is, you know, double strength in terms of the signal, right? So at this point, you should definitely be short, right? And right here, when this happened, you know, you short Bitcoin. And yeah, you know, it goes up a little bit, but then you get this nice move here all the way back up to about here where you would probably be stopped out unless you trailed your stop loss up into here, and then you would have been fine. But now what we see is we broke into the cloud, but there's no reason to suggest that we're going to go edge to edge, at this point in time, right? You're like, oh, cool, we broke into the cloud. What's going to happen? But the Kijin is still above the Tenkan by quite a bit, so there's no reason. However, what do we have here? But this is a bullish cross. So this is really interesting because it's possible that we could have an edge-to-edge scenario here, which would be really nice. I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to move over to my other chart here. Whoops, not the right chart. Where did I put that chart? Didn't I have it there? Hold on. Here. Bling. All right, so some of you guys probably saw my tweet from this morning, and you're like, I know what you were going to say. But this will be really interesting because this, like, if you buy in, like, right now, this is a potential 20%. Just cash, 20%. That's pretty good. If you're playing on margin, that's pretty awesome. So this is a definite possible scenario right now, and it's looking pretty good, right? If we want to bring in the RSI, we can do that. RSI is getting a little high, but it's not off the charts yet. Like here, off the charts is when it starts to get over this 70 level, kind of between, but it's between 30 and 70, right? So it's not getting into the point where it's like, wow, there's definitely going to be a huge correction here. I mean, it could, But so that's pretty interesting. And if you guys saw my tweet this morning, I'm going to switch over to my other chart here. This guy. Yeah. So if you guys saw this, I've been tracking some Elliot Waves this morning. This looks like a freaking mess, but let me just kind of get in here for you. So for those of you guys not familiar with Elliot Waves, don't worry about it. It doesn't matter. But it's basically, you know, tracking price movement in terms of a 5, 3, 5, 3, 5, 3, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, ABC, like a 5-point impulse wave, which is kind of one direction up or down, and then a 3-point wave correction, ABC, and then a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 point impulse wave, and then ABC, right? So I drew this morning here. So here's my tweeted from this morning, right? Watching BTC to see if this Elliott correction plays out. So it was only at 5 coming down to A, and I drew BC because I felt like it was going to continue this, right? And if you look, it played out almost to the T, right? This is pretty exact. And I actually put some money behind this, and I was short here and accumulated some here, and then sold here. So I did it on ETH though. Because ETH has been following BTC. If you look at ETH, right, it's the same thing. I drew the same thing here, and it made exactly the same pattern because I'm trading in ETH because ETH is a little bit more exaggerated than BTC is right now. Because if you look at the Ethereum against BTC, it's still quite high. If I go to the 1-day log, right? So just as far as like how is ETH trading against BTC, it's doing pretty well. So the higher it is, that means that when BTC makes a move and ETH follows it, that means that the ETH move is going to be more exaggerated. So if BTC goes 1%, ETH goes like 1.02% or 2% or something like that, right? Like it just means that ETH moves are more exaggerated, so I'm getting higher swings off ETH right now than BTC. Now, if ETH were down here, I'd be dealing directly in BTC, right? Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So back to the chart here. Whoops, I went to the day. I gotta go down here. And the interesting thing about Elliott Waves, if you guys like, this is kind of fascinating how these work, honestly, because they're recursive, which means that for every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like if you look at this one here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, this big light blue one here, for every 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, there is a smaller 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ABC within that, right? Like, or sorry, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 within each segment, within each little segment, right? So if you look here, and I take it down to like the 15-minute level, it's a lot easier to see this, right? So within this big 2 to 3 wave here, there's a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a mini 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's how you know that it's an Elliott wave pattern playing out. And then I didn't draw the little mini correction, but there's a A, B, C, and then there's another mini 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's a mini A, B, C. Actually, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, because we're in a correction wave here. So I imagine that this is going to bottom out somewhere around this range here. So at least if we follow this Elliott wave, I expect that we are probably going to see, something around here. And then the pattern will be complete, and it will be time for either another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 impulse wave, or some sideways accumulation, or we might even get a downtrend starting from here. It's really hard to say at this point. There's a lot of people who are scared right now. Like a lot of folks I know are like, man, it's just been going up so well. It's got to come to an end, right? But I don't know. Like if you just look at the amount of time that Bitcoin and the alts have been in season, in the last year or two, the seasons have lasted a little bit longer than this. Like usually it goes till around, like if we go back to, let's go back to 1 day. Let's go back to like 2017, right? So here's 2017. Right, like this. And if you look, you'll see a lot of the same kind of stuff. Like, look at the beginning of 2017, it dropped and it dropped, and it wasn't until about here where it started kind of really taking off, and that was the end of March, beginning of April, which is kind of like we're seeing now, right? And there were some dips. Like, here's a nice, like, if we zoom in on this guy, there's a little dip here, right? Got a dip in middle of April. We're in May, though. We're in May 2018, right? So we're about here as far as this is concerned last year. And in the middle of May, there was some sideways, but then we just kept going up, right? So if this is going to repeat exactly what happened last year, then we're not going down. But it's hard to say. Like, it's not guaranteed to repeat exactly what happened last year. So it's really tough to know, exactly what's going to happen there. Clean up some of this stuff. So let's look at some alts. So I think we mentioned ETH. ETH is doing pretty well. ETH was over 800 earlier today. Let's get in there. Wow. So because, like I said, ETH exaggerates what Bitcoin does, it's coming down pretty fast, right? Bitcoin is not coming down quite this fast. Well, it's actually pretty close. But Ethereum is going to be more exaggerated. So when Bitcoin corrects, Ethereum corrects. Now, I would expect, so as you can see, it's already gone down lower just in the last few minutes. So I have to kind of adjust this. But, it's when you predict a wave, it's not going to hit it exactly to the point. Although this was really close to my tweet from this morning. But you have to adjust it a little bit. But I would expect either a correction or some sideways accumulation to start happening right about here. You have to move this down a little bit. Put this to here. Right? Like, are we at it? Is this the bottom of the correction? I don't know. It's hard to say. So let's look at some other... And Litecoin, same thing, right? Let's look at Litecoin against Bitcoin. Just to see how it's doing. So Litecoin against Bitcoin, that's really weird that it has almost the same chart as the LTC USD chart. But Litecoin against Bitcoin is also doing fairly well. It's not like all-time great, but it's doing fairly well in the grand scheme of things. Oh, that really screws up the chart. Let me fix that. I mean, in general, it's high, which means that it also will be exaggerated against BTC's moves. So when you look at Litecoin against the dollar, and there has been some pumps, like the Tika's Palm Beach Confidential signaled buy Litecoin a couple of days ago, which caused a majority of this here. So a lot of people bought it. Now it's correcting, and it's going to correct, exaggerated relative to Bitcoin. So let's look at some other coins. And if you guys have a coin that you'd like me to do some TA on, just type it in the chat. You can do that in Twitch. If you're watching on YouTube or somewhere else, then don't worry about it. I'll just do a bunch of these. Let me see what I've got here. So here are some coins that I wanted to go over. Here's a list here. And this is a list from the Coin Chasers group. So these are some of the holdings right now, some of the portfolio holdings. And so I've been asked to do some of these, so I just have a list here. We're going to go over some of these. I don't know how much you guys are familiar. So I like to do functional analysis as well as TA, but we'll just do some TA, and I'll just explain kind of what these are. So the first one is Monaco, which is like a... imagine a cash rewards Visa where you get cash back on all your purchases, except it's crypto. It's 2% crypto back, and there's an actual credit card. You can't use this in the United States at the moment, but they're hoping to go worldwide with it as soon as the regulations are over. And it's actually a really cool looking card. It's a metal Visa card, and it looks badass if you guys have seen it. So that's Monaco. Let's take a look at it. MCO on Binance. So this is what the chart looked like this morning. It actually looked really good this morning because it had this really huge run up and then a gigantic correction. Like, how big was the correction? So if we go all the way from, I mean, if you just take it from from like here, where it really started, and we fib this up to like, I don't know, the top here. Let me see if I got it. Did I get that? It's pretty close. If we fib that all the way up to the top, then, you know, you've got like, you know, you're over 78, you're over 80% corrected. I mean, this is almost a 90. So if it gets to here, it's a 90% correction, right? Like maybe about there is a 90% correction, right? So it's really close to 90% corrected from this run up, which is an incredible buying opportunity usually, right? And like you look at the RSI, it's totally well, it's not totally bottomed out. It was bottomed out earlier. It was a nice buying opportunity here. There's some resistances. Let me just get rid of some of these lines. But if you kind of look at this chart, like we tested support, tested support. And when it hammers on the support this many times, it's going to kind of break through it, right? It hammered on the support like 4 times here without testing any kind of upward resistance. When it goes hammer, 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 and you're not bouncing off the top of the channel, that's a sign that you're going to crash through, and it did right here. It crashed through. And now we see it testing it as support, hammer, hammer, hammer. So, you know, it's very likely that this is going to break through again, but it's hard to say. But this, I consider this is a pretty good buying opportunity, and this is one of the coin chaser coins. So I like the look of this right now. The RSI is healthily, is that a word? Healthily? Healthily? It's healthy and kind of near the bottom of this channel, which is nice, which means it's got plenty of room to go on the 4-hour chart, which is big, right? Let's actually look at it on like the 1 day. See what we see. Yeah, we're in the middle. We had this huge run up here. I wonder if this was a pump and dump. I actually was not around for this, so I'm not sure what caused this. I have to go look. But you know, we're down almost halfway now. And let's see what else we have here, like on the 1 hour. Is there anything? Any other things here? I mean, let's put some more resistances in here, and so some more horizontals in here, because I think there's some stuff we can look at. So if you look at this little top back here, there's actually a resistance here, which is turned to support here. So this is significant. Does this go back further? Yeah, I mean, let's take it all the way back. All the way back. Let's go to 1 day. That's about it. Yeah, so it's about here. Okay. So this is a significant resistance turn support here. So this is very strong because it's from all the way back here in March, and so it's, as you can see, we bounced off it here. And this is a really strong buying opportunity, in my opinion. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. I know you guys hate hearing me say that, but I have to say it every time. But this is really interesting. I am not currently in this coin, but it was posted on the Coin Chasers group, and it looks really good. Like, I think Colin from the Coin Chasers is in this coin, and he probably got in like right at the bottom of this. He probably got a really good entry price. So yeah, this looks really interesting. I would definitely keep your eye on this one. Purely technical analysis at this point, right? Just in terms of functional analysis, we'll have to go take a look at the Reddit. Juan Cormo, could you chart QASH and Dragon? Thanks, your work is great. Very, very underrated. Oh, thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. So I will tell you, I am a huge fan of both those coins, especially Dragon. So I live up in the Seattle area, and a little functional analysis for you on Dragon Chain. So Dragon Chain is a platform coin. So it's in the Ethereum space. It's a platform for development and for ICOs, for new coins to develop on. And they have this, like, you guys are probably familiar with Dragon Chain, but if you haven't, they have this cute little dragon, and the reason it's so cute, you can't really see it. You can't really see the icon. Some people think it's kitty, but the founders of Dragon Chain actually came from Disney, from a Disney office in the Seattle area, and they're super smart. They are super smart, and they know business very well, right? They're not just programmers. They have business folks, and when I say they're super smart, I mean they're super smart in terms of the entrepreneurial sense. and also the tech sense. And the other interesting thing about these folks is from day one, 2017, when they founded Dragon Chain, they have been super compliant, right? And what I mean by compliant is, hey, SEC, is there anything that we need to be careful of when we're, founding this company, when we're doing our ICO, when we're allowing investors, when we're doing all of this partnerships, right? They have been compliant the entire way. So if any, big SEC regulations come down and boom, there's going to be all these laws and taxation, all this stuff, Dragon Chain is already going to be compliant. There's nothing that they have to do. I'm sure of it because they've been so compliant the whole way. And there's actually a few companies that have kind of been smart like this that are in the US that do that. But there's also a lot of platforms out there that haven't been, quite as buttoned up as these guys. So I'm super bullish on Dragon Chain overall. And if you look at their chart, like, dear God, I mean, they've gone they went over 50x from ICO. Unfortunately, I did not get in at ICO, even though I knew these guys. I wasn't taking risks on ICOs when this came out. I didn't start doing it until kind of near the end of last year. But man, they're really great. And let me see if I can get you a better chart. I can't get them on TradingView, but I might be able to get them because they're on KuCoin. So let's take a look and see if I can grab a better chart of this and get some indicators on here. Let's full screen this. If you full screen, you lose your indicators, which is so dumb. It's so dumb that happens. So this is the 480. Let's go to 240. 240 isn't an option on this. It's so dumb. They don't give you the full suite of options. But just kind of looking at the chart, like, this is its all-time low, right? Right, because this is where it ICO'd. This is where it came out. And, like, if you were gonna, like, this is the all-time low from the correction, right? It went all the way down to about 6,800 Satoshi down here. And, like, this would be the best place you could have possibly bought, right? And, and then here is another really good place. And then it's back up here, and it's actually pretty damn close to that. So if you believe in Dragon Chain and its fundamentals, like, this is still a great... I have a lot of this coin, and it's in my long-term portfolio. I don't trade this coin. Like, I don't do swing trades or anything. So, like, I mean, if you look... Can I at least get... Okay, so as far as it's from its all-time bottom, it's about 30%, right? 30% is nothing. But if you look at how far it has to go, like, if you bought today and it crossed its all-time high, you're gonna 3.5x, right? So if you believe that Dragon Chain has strong fundamentals and a good team and it's got interesting things coming out this year, and you think it will challenge its all-time high, that's a 260% gain from where it is right now, right? So there's incredible opportunity. And what's the downside risk, right? So if Dragon Chain's going to drop, okay, you might lose 30% and it hits here. Are you really worried about it going down to here, to the next support? And even if it went down all the way to ICO entry price on Binance, 47%. So 50%. You're losing 50%. And that's a lot, and you'd probably want stop losses, right? But technically, the risk is 50% down, 250% up. Like, that's a kind of trade I would take all day. So, fundamentally, from a technical perspective, right, this coin looks really, really good. And because the fundamentals are so strong, because the price is so low, like, in the middle of alt season, you're not going to see many opportunities to pick up coins at the very, very bottom. Like, you're going to have to settle for some of these. It went down, then went up, and now it's correcting, and you buy, and then, like, you're not going to be able to just take these bottom channels on everything like you could do at the beginning of in April, right? Like, coins have come back a little bit. There was an alt run, and so you're going to have to settle for corrections rather than bottoms. Now, there are still some that are bottomed, but, Dragon Chain's not necessarily one of them. Didn't know those facts with regard to regulation. Awesome to know it. Same problem every time I want to do some 2A TA with that coin. God, I know. There should be a way Now, if you use Coinigy, I think they have more exchanges, but man, TradingView should just have a plugin. Just like, oh, I want to use KuCoin, so let me plug in my KuCoin API or something to be able to get the coins on KuCoin. I mean, and any other exchange. Like, why TradingView doesn't have that? It just baffles me, because this platform is so nice. I love using it. I'm not paying for it, and I would probably switch to Coinigy, I guess, if I did, because it has volume. But man, I sure wish I could get some of the other exchange coins on here, because I have all my indicators set up and kind of, you know, what I want to look at. So I will look at QASH in a minute. I want to go through a few more of these coins. So that's Monaco. We talked about Monaco a little bit. It looks good, right? It looks good. It's not bottomed out, but it is pretty low corrected, and it's sitting on a very, very nice support that dates all the way back to December, right? Like, that's, I mean, what more can you ask for? Well, I guess you could ask for it to be here. You could be like, I want to buy it here, man. This would be a really nice spot to pick me up some of this bad boy. I mean, if it were here, you would be buying it like it was going out of style, right? And you had the opportunity to do that back in April, but now you don't. Okay, so, and you're probably not going to get that opportunity again. I mean, you might. If Bitcoin takes a massive dump, you might get a correction back to here, but it's hard to say. So that's Monaco. What else we got? We have Loopring, which is a LRC. It is a decentralized exchange platform. So it's for building decentralized exchanges like CryptoBridge. It's a platform for those Ether Delta, for those exchanges where nobody owns them. They're not central. So let's take a look at LRC on Binance. Yep. So I was charting a little bull flag here, and we went up, and so let's take a look at what we have here. You know, a lot of these coins are going to look the same. Not exactly the same, but they're going to have, you're going to notice a lot of similar properties with kind of these generic alts that haven't had a lot of, you know, amazing news in the last couple of months, and it's just kind of been organic growth and decline relative to Bitcoin. And that's where TA really shines. When there's no, like, mainnet release coming in 30 days or a new partnership announcement or something like that. And that's why you can never TA Tron, right? It's because Tron, you pretty much have to use pure fundamental analysis because there's so much hype. And you'll be TAing something and you're like, ooh, I like this bull flag, or this bear flag means it's going to go down. And then Justin Sun comes out and he's like, we have a new thing, and he puts a billboard ad up in Times Square, and then it just goes up and you get wrecked. Or it moons. So you have to use pure fundamental analysis for coins that have as much marketing and events as Tron does. But for a lot of these coins, they don't have a lot of those events. So TA just works really, really well for these coins that just don't have a lot of things going on. So they have this big run up here. This looks a lot like Monaco. Not quite the same. But, you know, you have this similar pattern here where it's up, this kind of parabolic rise and this big correction. We go here back to LRC, right? You've got this kind of parabolic rise. Well, not quite the same. It didn't correct down quite as hard. You know, you've got a pretty big support zone here, right? You've got the tested as support, crash through, tested as resistance, crash through, tested as support. So you know, if you're looking to accumulate more of this coin, this is kind of the zone that I would be looking at personally, is right here. Like, I don't think it's going to go, I mean, it could come back down to here, but I don't know that we're actually going to see that. Although there's a lot of good, bring this back in here. There's a lot of good, there's a very, very strong support resistance right here, right? Bang, bang, through, you know, kind of touched with the wick down here, right? So these are the two zones. Like if you want to ladder into this coin, you'd be like, oh, get some here, get some here. Maybe there's one in the middle here. Maybe there's a little guy right here, possibly. This one's not very strong though. It's only got like one touch. And maybe if you get real deep in here, you can narrow this down, and you got a little bit of right, because yeah, actually this is not bad. You have this support, then you have this kind of resistance, woohoo, right? So yeah, this is fair. This is decent. Like you would look to accumulate this coin here, here, and here. You know, ladder your buys. You know, take like, you know, get a 10% position here, get a 40% position here, get a 70% position here. When I ladder my buys down like this, they get bigger, so that if it actually drops through, I dollar cost average down, right? Because if you say like, hey, I'm going to buy 5,000 coins here, 5,000 coins here, 5,000 coins here, then what you're actually doing is you're setting your dollar cost average right in the middle, right? So you buy here, you buy here, you buy here. If you buy the exact same amount of coins, then your average is going to be like, you know, here or something, right? Like, or kind of right in here. But if you buy more as you go down, then you end up averaging down. And so your average, if you buy like, you know, 10%, 30%, 70% or something like that, right, then your average is going to be way down here. So when the coin goes back, you realize the most gains, right? Now, a lot of times what happens is it only hits one or two of your buys and then just goes up, and then you're like, fine, you know, you just take this buy and this big 70% buy and just move it into something else. And you say, sweet, I'm happy, right? Because you always kind of catch the bottom when you ladder your buys like that. Hopefully that makes sense. Epic Red Pill says, hey, Silver, about EOS, why, in your opinion, did it drop? What could happen? Rise, drop again. About release, when to sell. There a couple days before launch. What's the best moment to sell? Yeah, I'll get to EOS. I don't think EOS is on here, but I will add it. I'll add it, so we'll talk about that. But as far as loop ring goes, like I said, if you're looking to accumulate more of this, these are the zones that I would consider putting your buys. I would ladder them, and then if it does this, ring, you're happy. If it does this, you're happy. If it does this, you're happy. If it does this, you're happy because you hit two of them. And, you know, if worst case it does that, you're like, woohoo, I got all three. So you're fine no matter what happens here. And if you're just holding, I think it's fine. Like, it could very well just bounce there, and then you don't need to accumulate more. I'm not too worried about this kind of a scenario. The RSI is fairly low. Let's take a look at the cloud on this guy. So on the doubled settings, we're in the no trade zone. We had an edge to edge. Now we're coming back the other direction. The Kijin is actually under this. You can see it here. So not necessarily convinced that we're going to have an edge to edge trade. In fact, on the way back down, we might bounce off the Kijin, which is actually funny. That right where I drew this. Can you guys see it under there? I'm going to move this. See the Kijin right here? So a lot of times you get the Kijin bounce, right? And it just so happens that's right where I drew this zone. That's where the Kijin is. So it's very, very likely that we might bounce off that Kijin and go back up, which is another reason if you're trying to accumulate more of this, you might stick a buy right above this Kijin here on the doubled settings, just to make sure you hit. You know, you put it right in there. That's some awesome drawing. You can tell I have a steady hand. I used to be good at that game Operation. I'm awful. No, I'm kidding. I'm terrible at that. It's amazing that I can actually move a mouse. How bad my handwriting is. But that's okay because I can type. Anyway, so that's the story with this. I would expect a Kijin bounce here. If it breaks through the Kijin, I would look for some more accumulation here at the bottom of the cloud, which also serves as a resistance point, right? Like the cloud itself is multiple levels of resistance and support. And I swear to God, I did not look at the cloud when I drew these. It just so happens that they are at the same spots, right? So, just, you know, further validation that these levels here are very meaningful, right? They matched up with the cloud, they matched up with the Kijin. So these supports and resistances are very solid, in my opinion, right? So it's got to get through this, then it's got to get through that before it falls down to here. So I'm not too worried about it unless Bitcoin completely dumps. And then all bets are off as far as TA goes because Bitcoin's going to be dragging it. Let's look at the singled settings real quick. As far as the singled settings go, which just means that we're looking at the 30-day cloud rather than the 60-day cloud, and signals are a little faster but not always as accurate. They are more prone to possible fake-outs. We've got a green Kumo twist coming up here, which is bullish. Tenkin is above the Kijin, which is bullish. Price is above the cloud, which is bullish. We have a Kijin bounce. Did this just happen? Did it just do that? Like in the last 5 minutes? No. Okay. That was pretty weird. It looks like we might have a Kijin bounce on the 1 day here. I'm sorry, on the singled settings on the 1 day. If it breaks through this, you know, we have these supports and resistance zones down here. So that is loopring. If you guys have any questions about this, let me know. I'm going to move on to the next coin here. Let's clear this. Go back to doubled settings and hide it. Hide it. Okay, so next is Ether Party. What a cool name for a coin. The ticker symbol is Fuel. This coin is a smart contract wizard on the Ethereum blockchain. So it's awesome. By the way, there's a ton of projects in the coin market cap, you know, top 100 that are running on Ethereum, which just goes to show the power. You know, a lot of people say like, well, which of these coins have real world use today? Ethereum has real world use today, right? And I don't understand anybody who hates on Ethereum. I don't actually know many people who hate on Ethereum, but there's a few people who are like, dude, Vitalik, he's this 20-year-old guy. I mean, he's just some guy, right? I don't care how smart he is, man. But Ethereum is just really, really solid. And ever since I started studying cryptocurrencies and following them from 2015, I sort of fell in love with Ethereum. Not just because, not anything to do with Vitalik, just because it was kind of what they were trying to achieve. They weren't trying to be a payment coin. Like Bitcoin was over here in this space. Ethereum was trying to become the first real platform, and I think it achieved that goal. And yeah, CryptoKitties bogged them down a lot at the end of 2017, but they're working on scaling. It's their number one priority, and they're a really nimble group. So I have full faith that they're going to be able to flex and scale the platform in time. Even though there's a lot of other cryptos out there like Ripple and Credits and Nano that have faster transactions per second than Ethereum, they don't have the adoption that Ethereum has. And you know, it's kind of like, do you guys remember when like HD, DVD, and Blu-ray were fighting it out? It turns out that HD, DVD is the superior technology, but it doesn't matter because Blu-ray had the market adoption and it just crushed the superior tech. So the superior tech doesn't always win. So remember that when someone tells you, dude, but Nano has so many more transactions per second, they're gonna crush, you know, these bigger guys. You know, not necessarily. I mean, they definitely could. And you know, if they can get the adoption going, then it absolutely could happen. But just remember that the best technology does not always win the war, right? Blade says, I'm super tired. I'm going to watch on my phone until I fall asleep. Thanks for the creepy toe stream. Toe stream. I'm not sure what that means, but you got it, man. happy to help. Have a good night, sir. So we were talking about Ether. So anyway, I'm just really bullish on ETH in general. I have most of my portfolio in ETH personally. There's actually a really big decision point coming up on Monday, like literally in 2 days. On the 7th, there's a regulators meeting by the SEC that's going to pass judgment on whether or not Ethereum and Ripple and other tokens are deemed as securities. And I think the answer is going to be no, because by definition, they fail some of the tests that cause something to be considered a security. I won't necessarily get into detail on that. But the one angle that they do have potentially going for them at the SEC on this from the regulator's perspective is that when Ethereum ran an ICO, when they ICO'd back in the day, originally when they came out, they sold their token with the promise of some things happening, and a company, the Ethereum Foundation, sold it. So that, like years ago, that act right there of Ethereum's ICO might have been considered a security. Like the sale of the token could have been a sale of a security, and there are definitely some grounds there that they have. However, that was years ago, and the nature and the utility of the token have long since moved past that. And the SEC isn't really known for going back to like years and going, we're actually, years ago when you did this, it was bad. And even though you've changed now and everything's better, we're going to hit you for all of this and we're going to back tax you. And like, they're not in the business of like smacking the wrists of people who did something a long time ago and since then haven't caused any problems and have rectified their ways and all of that. That's just not how they run. And so there's very little evidence to support that the SEC is going to come down on Ethereum and Ripple as a security today. The worst thing that I think could happen is that they say, hey, you guys ICO'd a security, we're not going to allow that anymore. You're kind of past that point now. It's no longer a security, so it's fine. We don't necessarily need regulation on it. This is just my opinion. I don't know what's going to happen, but I've been doing a lot of studying on it, and I don't think it's going to be deemed a security, but we will see. You know, nobody knows. A lot of the officials don't believe it's a security either, but what about a few years ago when it ICO'd? That was kind of like a security, so what does that mean? So that's really the gray area as far as I'm concerned. But other than that, Ethereum is really, really interesting. I don't know anybody who hates on it. And back to Ethereum Party, which is, Ethereum is all about smart contracts. So Bitcoin is about payments and store of value and how quickly can I get money to you anywhere in the world. And, Ethereum is just about, like, data and contracts. And if I say that we have a digital contract that says I do this and I get paid this, it's a contract that's on the blockchain. Everybody can validate it. You can't edit it. You can't hack it. It's really safe. It's trustworthy. So it brings some really interesting disruptive things to the crypto space. And Fuel is kind of like a wizard on top of that. If you get a wizard, I don't mean like Merlin. I mean like, do you guys remember like when you installed an app like 10, 20 years ago and it came up with hey, this little pop-up said, we're going to install McAfee virus scan. You hit the next button and it's like, enter your options or just click quick install. That's a wizard, right? Because it just makes the process of doing something simple and easy in just a couple of clicks. That's what they call it, a wizard. So like an install wizard, it would be like you get to click a couple buttons, choose your path, and say go, or you can hit customize and really go deep and change a lot of things about the installation, right? So Ether Party is like that for Ethereum, right? It's like, hey, you can get smart contracts really easily in just a few clicks, right? Or like as far as an app developer, you can make these really easy and come up with these complex smart contracts with a nice clean UI. And so that's what Ether Party is functionally. Let's take a look at the tech. Let's look at the coin. What's up? Money Pens 101. How you doing? Welcome. Welcome to Saturday Night Crypto. Feel free to ask any questions you want in the chat. I will respond to all of them. Ether Party. This kind of has the hallmark of a lot of the other altcoins that we're looking at, right? It came down at ICO. Is this on any other? No, it's just on Binance. Okay. It had a nice run up last year, then a big correction, and it hasn't really turned around. Like if you look at the day view, it hasn't really turned around. If I zoom in, it's going to look like it's going up. But if you look at the grand scheme of things here, it really, as far as the all-time low is concerned here, right, which goes way back to here, where we hit kind of there. I'm gonna make this zone bigger. It's huge now, but like that's kind of where it hit. Right, so this zone, this is kind of like the all-time low for all intents and purposes. And, we hit it. Now, starting here, we start to come back up. So it's kind of clear that we're now in an uptrend. Like we've broken any downtrend that we were in. Let's get this guy. So like this is the downtrend, right? So I mean, no matter where you try to draw this downtrend, it's broken out of it. Log scale, on the log scale. So we're out of this downtrend, and now it's kind of coming up again. So let's zoom in and take a look at what it's been doing recently. 4 hours. So if I open up the linear regression, so the RSI is looking kind of juicy here. It's getting down closer to that 30 range. And when it gets down in here, and actually the last time it was down below 30 was not until March. Was March, right? When it touched down below this 30 line. I mean, it nicked the line here, but as far as getting down below the 30 line, which is where you want to see things if you want them to run up on the RSI, it hasn't been there since March. And honestly, there was a big dump here. I don't know what this flash crash was, but that might have caused that. So really, effectively, the last time we've been down there was not since, March, okay? So we're getting pretty close to that, which is juicy as far as an entry position goes. And let me open up the linear regression. I like this tool a lot. A lot of people don't know about this tool, but it's free. You just type linear regression, right? And you can see the current trend. This just shows a trend, right? It says this is the trend on the 4 hour, and this basically says it's going up, right? If you look at it though on the 1 hour, it's like it's going down, right? So you look at it and it changes based on the time frame. It's constantly updating, so this can move. This isn't just like a static indicator that just sits there and then the price breaks out of it. Like it's, you know, so it's getting kind of flat here. So it's going down most recently, but if you look at the bigger picture, like the 4 hour trend, it's going up. It is kind of knocking out of here. You know, this is like what a pitchfork tool kind of looks like. I'll bet you there's a pitchfork here. Looks like maybe here, and then possibly here. Yeah, so let me cut this linear regression tool. So this is kind of the channel that it's in right now, anchored here. So that's a bad anchor point. Whatever, it's okay. And we're still kind of within this channel as far as either party goes. So what I would be looking for here is, do we break out of this channel? And if so, there are some supports. Let's see here. Looks like we have a nice, very, very strong support zone here. How far does this go back? This goes back actually a long way. We tested it here, we broke through, we tested it as resistance, we tested it as resistance, we broke through, we tested it as support, and right about now we are about to test it as support again. So if you're looking to accumulate some of this coin, this is a nice zone to do it in the immediate term. I would look at first for a bounce right about here, bing, and then kind of coming back up to the other side of this channel here, which is going to look something like this, right? We're going to, you know, maybe bounce off here, work its way up to the top of this channel here, then maybe kind of correct down again. So, I mean, there's a nice, there's a juicy 30% to be had here if it kind of makes this kind of a move, even if it takes a long time. And I mean, the longer it takes to do that, the more you actually get, right? Because the trend is kind of going up here. That was a follow, but I have to see. Thank you for the follow, Money Pens. Much appreciated. Glad to have you. Hopefully your day is going well, and hopefully your trading is going even better. Thank you for the follow. Very much appreciate it. How much time do I have left? I only have 7 minutes left. Jesus, I didn't even get through half of these coins. So sorry, I do want to move on a little bit, but anyway, that's kind of the story with Ether Party. It's looking okay. Like, it's in a correction, but you know, you don't want to buy it on the way up. Like, definitely don't chase these coins. Like, if you get a tip or you say, hey, you know, somebody believes this coin is going to go up. If it looks like this, you know, and it's at the top of a channel, you want to be really careful about buying here. And a lot of people, and when I first started trading, I didn't use indicators and technical analysis. And I'm just like, it's going up, it's going up, it's going up. Everybody says buy it. And I would put a buy right here, right? I'd buy all these green candles. And I had no idea. And then it would do this. And I'm just like, why does it always go down right when I buy? Right? Well, the reason that happens is because you bought at the top of a channel. And you don't want to do that. You always want to let the market come to you. And if it doesn't come to you, and you have your buy put in the middle of this green zone, and the price goes beep, then you just say, you know what? There are 1,000 cryptocurrencies in the sea, and this one was not for you. Don't even sweat it that you missed your buy by 1 Satoshi. And I've had it happen. I've missed a buy order by 1 Satoshi and 4 Satoshis. I've had it happen. And boy, does it sting, but you just shrug it off and let it go. And then just be like, all right, you know, whatever. I'll go to the next one. No problem. But don't FOMO into things that are going up in general. There are so many things that are going down that you can afford to let the market come to you. Do not FOMO into coins that are going up. I can't stress that enough. you know, if everybody and their dog is buying it and it's up here and they all bought down here, then you wait for it to correct or you sit that one out. Seriously, you will wreck yourself more than you will make trying to FOMO into a coin that is like, you know, 2x or something like that and it's continuing to go, just because the risk reward is so skewed. I want to get to, so I don't have time to do all of these, unfortunately. I'm gonna have to start moving faster in the future. I'm kind of still getting this up, but the other questions are QASH and EOS. So let me just do a very, very quick QASH and EOS. QASH was first. QASH is a really strong fundamental coin. And look at the cloud here real quick. This is a mess. Why is this so messy? This is really choppy. Some Bitfinex. Oh, I think I typed in the, no, I got the right one. That's really weird. So this looks pretty good, right? It's correcting from this nice big run that it had just recently. It's coming back. So what's the fib correction here? How much did we come back kind of from this low? From this low, I can't even see where it is. Yeah, let me turn off all this. Okay, so this is kind of about here. I'm not even going to count the full top. If I count the full top, it's come 90%. So if we count like the local top here, it's like 90% retraced just from the last run up, right? So this is actually looking pretty good. I mean, you'd love if it came all the way back to here, but do you really think it's gonna? You really think you're gonna get it down here at the 5,500 Satoshi level? I doubt it. This coin has too strong of fundamentals, in my opinion, to get down there. I mean, it's possible. Anything's possible, especially if Bitcoin drags things up or down. But this looks actually pretty good. I would expect a bounce somewhere in this zone, and then this is a really solid long-term hold because this has got good fundamentals. And then EOS. So it's funny. It's funny you asked me for EOS, and I don't know if you read my Twitter, but EOS is my nemesis coin. And so EOS is a coin that whose gains have eluded me for a year and a half. Like, I bought this coin in 2017. I made a little profit off it. I sold it, and then 3 days after I sold it began this ridiculous run up, like at 2.5x'd after I sold it. And I was so salty about that. I was just like, oh my God, why didn't I hold it 3 days longer? Like, I just wanted to take those, like, I got greedy. I took, like, I don't know, it was like a 15%, 20% profit on it, which is fine, right? Like, it's not a big deal, but like, I was pretty bummed about that. And all my friends are like, they were like walking around the office going, EOS, man, dude, I can't even count the money I've earned from this. And I'm like, shut up, man. Don't want to hear about it. So that happened. And then I got in it again this year earlier, and it went up, and I didn't sell it, and it went down, and I had to sell it break even. And then it went up again after I sold it at break even. So now I'm in it a third time, and you know, like, common logic would indicate to just stay the hell away from this coin because it's cursed for me. But I'm determined to beat this coin. Like, I am determined to beat this coin. I have to do it. And I haven't been able to do it yet. And by beat it, I mean, like, I want 50% or 2x off this coin because it's going to be around for a long time. Anyway, this is a hard coin to ask me my advice on because I have so many, like, I'm an emotionless trader and I don't ever let emotions get to me. But for some reason, this coin has, like, cracked me a little bit. So take any advice I give you, or opinion, I will say, because I don't give advice, right? I will give you my opinion, but take it with a grain of salt because this coin hates me. This is the only coin I will say that about. That said, let's see here what we've got. We've got this double top, which is a bearish sign. So there is some bear business going on here. Let me take off this and put back the RSI. We'll look at a couple of indicators. The RSI is nice and lowish, which is good. I think there was some divergence here. No, I don't know why I marked this. Is it looking at another indicator? It's on balance of volume, maybe? I'm not sure. But as far as like, I mean, this had a really nice run up in April, and I would assume that there's, there could definitely be some correction. There's some room for correction here. Like, we've only corrected 50%, which is actually, like, reasonable for a coin of strength. Like, you don't, like, I showed you some other coins, and we saw how they corrected down into the 78 and 90% range. Do I think that's going to happen with EOS? No, but does that mean it will happen? Probably. Like, I think it's going to bounce here, which means it's going to come down to here, or the 90%, right? So, I don't think it's going to get down into here. Like, I think this is a reasonable bounce spot. There's a nice support here that matches up with this 50% fib. And I think this is a reasonable spot for it to turn around. There's a lot of things coming in the pipe for EOS as far as functional analysis goes. Let's go to the calendar, do a little FA, see what we got coming up here on EOS. So we've got an 11th of May, which is in a few days. We've got the Dawn 4.0 release. Usually leading up to a big release, there's going to be some price gain. Then live coin delisting, recovery remaining balance not possible under deadlines. There's a delisting here. I have to look at a little bit more into what exactly this is. Native token. So this is a big deal because this is their main net, and this is when it switches from an ERC token to a native token. So assuming that they handle this well, this is a nice big bullish event, moving into June. So that means as we go through May towards June, there's definitely, like, getting the native tokens is going to be a pretty big deal. So evidently June doesn't exist on the 1 hour chart. So let's go to the 4 hour chart. All right. So here, as we get closer to June, which is kind of this time frame here, I would expect to see this coin get back up here and at least challenge this local top, if not go bigger if there's any marketing hype around it. But we'll see. It's really going to depend. I don't think it's going to go back down too low. There's just so much going on with this coin. A lot of people are really bullish about it. So anyway, so I don't have more time. I really want to limit these to an hour. Like, I could talk for 3 hours, but I've got, I want to, like, keep these to an hour. I'm going to try to get them more streamlined so I don't run out of time before I get to my agenda. And, thanks for being patient as I go through these kinds of things and kind of figure out about how much I can fit into an hour. And I'll start crafting agendas that work. And then I have time for questions at the end. And right now I got totally wrecked by trying to take on like this many coins and talk about indicators and answer questions. There's just no way I can do this much in an hour unless I just really go through them fast. But I like to go deep. I would rather go deep on each coin that I just like touch on it, and don't really give you guys any meat to chew on. So I think I'm just going to do fewer coins and try to go deeper into them in general. But if you guys have questions, I'll try to leave more time for that in the future. Manny, did you see my questions? Are you self-taught? What's your background? I'm new to this market cap daily. Not sure how to... So I'm self-taught as far as cryptocurrencies. I do a lot of research, though. I've been studying them since 2015, and then really studying technical analysis since last year. So I've been doing this for about a year, maybe say 8 to 9 months technically, as far as technical analysis. And boy, has technical analysis helped me, right? And the reason technical analysis is so strong that I always say in my tweets and things that functional analysis is always bigger than technical analysis. And technical analysis is just charts and patterns and, high probability trades and risk and reward, looking at charts without any mind paid to what's happening with the team, the coin, the project, right? That's pure technical analysis, right? Then there's the other side of the coin, which is just what's the team doing? How's their marketing? What events do they have coming up? What partnerships could they land? What does that mean for the community, right? That's fundamental analysis and functional analysis, and that is always going to trump a chart, right? A chart could say, wow, there's a high likelihood the price goes up, and then the devs, go bankrupt or something bad happens, they get hacked, and you could have never predicted that on a chart. So news and fundamental analysis always trumps technical analysis. So it's more important to have both. But in the absence of any fundamental analysis, nothing is happening, there's no news, there are like months between milestones. That is when technical analysis truly shines, which is the majority of the time, unless you're Tron. It's where you have like an announcement every week. But outside of a coin like Tron, which is the exception, technical analysis really shines when you're between news events and anything coming, right? Then the organic nature of buying and selling and price action really shines. So technical analysis helps a lot. And so yes, I am self-taught. Juan Como, really appreciate you take the time to review the coins. First time here, really enjoy it. Yeah, thanks, man. I do this every Saturday, so feel free to come by. And if you ever miss one, there will be a VOD on my YouTube channel. And I'm going to switch over to playing Duelist now, where I play games for a couple of hours. And if you guys don't like games, don't worry about it. The crypto stuff is every Saturday. You can catch me on Twitter. Here's my Twitter. I'll put it in the chat. I'm Kevin Lambert on Twitter. I do not use a pseudonym. I use my real name. I use my real face. I don't hide behind anonymity. I want to be trustworthy. There's a lot of shady people out in this world who will give you questionable information, and that's not who I am. So I want you guys to know that I have nothing to hide. I'm out there, and I'm always going to be truthful, and not gonna pull any punches either. So thank you guys for hanging out. I will switch over to Duelist now. You're welcome to stay watching if you want to watch video games. This game is kind of like Hearthstone a little bit. It's a collectible card game, but I'm going to switch over. So thank you guys, and I will see you next Saturday for Saturday Night Crypto.